Dr. Box, care to comment on Hazbin Hotel Season 2?
Oh,
How do you feel about the current direction of the series? Would you care to put that into words that our audience can understand?
Nope.
Excellent. I'm gonna go jump in a furnace, because if this interview doesn't get me fired, that sure as hell will.
Box bites.
Our moment has come at last, folks! Pop the snack bags and burn the theories, cause the second season is finally here! Ease. Luckily, we didn't have to wait nearly as long as we did for the first season to arrive, but that doesn't mean we were any less anticipated to see more of this world than the wacky yet well-dressed folks that accompany it. Seriously, I've seen decks of cards with less suits than this cast. But regardless, we've got a lot to look forward to this season. Like the hotel's business booming, Pentious learning that white is his new black, and Vox warming up his butt to sit in the big bad chair. And now that the first 2 episodes are here, new Pentious and Storyteller, does the narrative get off to a good start? Or did Vivzie fumble to set up harder than Alistair on a vegan diet? Well, let's tune on in and find out. Episode 1, New Pentious, starts with a Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench news report updating Demonkind on the latest happenings at the Double H. Well, with a lovely agenda-driven twist, of course. Yup, they somehow managed to warp Charlie's selfless revolution to save her loved ones into some sick escapade fueled by her ravenous bloodlust. And who knows, Demonkind itself could be next on her chopping block. Anyway, we slide on over to the new hotel, with a little statue in the front to commemorate Dazzle's sacrifice, very nice, and we see that Charlie's place is buzzing with new patrons. Though the majority of them are here for the complete opposite reason than what was intended. They're not here to be redeemed, they're here to be educated in the ways of angel slaughter, wanting to strike back at the gold-blooded barbarians for what they did to countless demon generations. Charlie says she ain't playing ball, leading to almost everyone abandoning her cause, except for newcomer Baxter, who wishes to observe Charlie's cause for the sake of science. And maybe a touch of sadism. And of course, Vox comes in swooping like a vulture to snatch up the Hell Dwellers desperate for rebellion and give them both a sanctuary and a public figure who shares their ideals. When in reality, it's all just a plan to get Charlie out of the picture so him and his cohorts, but mostly him, let's be honest here, can paint the pearly gates in their colors and relish in the lavish luxuries the holy afterlife can offer. After all, you can't spell heaven without V. Also, Emily shows up last minute to spoil the next episode, and Charlie reacts accordingly. So I'm gonna be frank here, guys. Even as one of this show's most adamant defenders, this is definitely one of its weakest outings. I get that you need an establishing episode to thrust us back into Vivzie's underworld, but when it comes to the small moments that make these stories symbiotic with my soul, this entry does come up a bit short. I'll admit it is nice to see the gang back together again, with the outcomes of their arcs still present and thriving. I mean, we do see Angel making his usual lewd remarks while working a crowd and teasing Husk, but we're shown that it's purely for celebrity marketing purposes. And when the fans aren't peeping, he's gotten a lot more comfortable with emotional openness and tenderness, even being an outspoken advocate for therapy. He's also been keeping a close eye on Cherri Bomb, who's still coping over her snake daddy being vaporized. She's not in the best mood at the moment, and she's clearly got some questions that only Pentious himself can answer, but at least she's got a buddy to drink alcoholic in-jokes with, so she'll be fine for the time being. Alistair got his staff mended, but other than that, he doesn't really do much. Probably gonna save his screen time for future episodes. One of which might reveal who was holding his chains the entire time. I've already cast my ballot as to who I think it is, so I'm not gonna say anything. And best of all, Vaggie is making continual strides to claim her own identity independent of her checkered past, going so far as to completely change her name. Remember that Adam was the one to give her the name Vaggie in the first place, so switching to something of her own design sounds like the ideal next step in isolating herself from her previous sins. Personally, I would drop the V names altogether and go for something completely different. Like, what about justice? It would fit her motivation of ensuring that her loved ones and morals are protected, enforcing that those who offend her will meet the business end of her spear, and hey, if her and Charlie ever get married, she'd be Justice Morningstar. You'd need to leave an ID tag in the Arctic to find a name that cool. The songs, as always, are slam dunks. Hazbin Guarantee is a twinkling, upbeat opener which converts into a cold electronic bop, depending on whether the pro tags or the and tags are taking the mic. It perfectly shows off the dichotomy of both sides, with Charlie genuinely caring for her guests, while the V's just see their clients as a means to an end and nothing else. And of course you get the occasional bits of banter from outside characters to make the songs feel more alive, whether you're watching the animation or just listening to them on their own. I'd argue it's even better than Happy Day in Hell, as iconic as that number is. It's not the nifty opening song I hoped it would be, but hey, we still got 6 more episodes. Maybe she'll get her time to sing eventually. At least she got some pseudo-celebrity status for castrating the captain, so it's better than the episode just ignoring her, I guess. The V's also get their own solo song with Once We Get Up There. And while it's not quite as good as Hell Is Forever, nor does it trounce an upcoming villain song which surpasses both of them, it's got a nice bouncy beat to it with fun lyrics, flashy animation, and some insight into what the V's would do if heaven was under their heels. Vel would literally skin the angels for a new fashion line, giving off major Cruella de Vil vibes. Val would want to see what angels would do under his sleazy payroll, and Vox, well, he's just a petty little wiener who wants to squash all those who ever hurt his feelings. If you've been paying attention to his characterization all throughout Season 1, this should come as no surprise to you. I also appreciate some of the more subtle details present throughout the song, like how Vox isn't actually playing the piano at the beginning, reminding the audience that everything about him is fake and always will be, and the fact that at the end of the song, he's on a platform that's both higher and separate from the other Vs, hinting at how he plans to nab heaven for himself and leave his cohorts in the dust. I mean, bro hasn't exactly been subtle about that fact, so he better watch his back or the Vs might cancel his public image. And that is life subscription. And while on the subject of the Vs, while I still do feel like they needed some more time in the Season 1 oven to build up their status as main baddies, what we're shown here isn't too shabby. They're 3 media giants with completely selfish pursuits who literally set their goals as high as they can go. They've got the style and charisma to make for a satisfying trip upwards, and with how manipulative and abusive they are, it'll be satisfying to see their downfall. I do have to question the specifics of their plan though, since we don't actually get to see Vox's presentation. And when Val asks exactly how they're gonna get up there, Vox just writes it off as semantics. No, not semantics. That's actually a very valid question. Probably the first one you should answer when formulating this bad boy. You can get all the clout you want, but how is that supposed to send you to the city above? What, are you just gonna stack up your followers Jenga style and climb your way to the top? I'll admit it is very in character for Vox to just lie about having things under control while filling any public uncertainty with big speeches and empty promises. And honestly, the fact that he's doing this not to his fans, but to his partners, shows that much like the former, he sees Val and Vel as nothing more than tools to be utilized. I am interested to see how much this two-timing TV can do by the seat of his pants before they inevitably rip in half. So I'll hold my tongue for now and see how this plan of his plays out. When it comes to certain other parts of the episode, however, yeah, I'm not gonna hold my tongue at all. I'm gonna let that sucker flap for a bit. Aside from the characters and music, every other aspect of this episode is kinda mixed for me. Like, as excited as I am to see Baxter in the series, what purpose is he gonna serve plot-wise? I mean, we know he came to the hotel to study if redemption is possible, but at the end of this episode, Emily just straight up tells Charlie that her hotel was a success, meaning redemption is possible. Like, there you go, proof straight from the source. I assume Baxter will question Charlie's word of mouth since he wasn't there, and since heaven is being closed off, as we'll see later, she won't get a chance to show him definitive evidence right away. But we do see Emily chilling at the hotel in many trailer shots, so I assume it won't be long until she joins the gang too. I don't know, I'm not upset to see Baxter by any means, but I am questioning exactly how they're going to use him and how long this whole experiment arc of his will actually last. There's also this kind of cringy gag where Charlie and certain others keep referring to Baxter as Pentious, and yeah, even when this was showed off at cons, I wasn't really laughing that hard. Nor was I laughing at most of the jokes this episode. That whole reporter killing his wife gag just went on for way too long. It was funny at first, but then they do it like 3 more times, plus 1 time in the background, and it just kind of loses all its steam by that point. Katie Killjoy flirting with Vox was more awkward than it was funny, though it is clear that Brandon Rogers was definitely trying to channel Blitz with this performance, which I approve of. Charlie saying that Pentious was the best of us, or at least the most snake? I don't really know how to respond to that. The death ray joke afterward had pretty much the same punchline, with Charlie adding an addendum to her sad statement. You should have just stuck with that one and cut the first one out. Pair all this with the mostly static setting of 2 locations, some kinda awkward song placement, and some pretty uninspired dialogue, especially for Hazbin standards, and you've got an episode that was necessary, but a few points short of being super memorable. I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Songs are awesome, potential for new character arcs is there, but it's not quite the grand reintroduction I was expecting for Vivzie's passion project. Oh no, they saved that for the next episode. Second up, we have Storyteller, which is just infinitely better than the first episode in every possible way. With Pentious existing as the sole soul that managed to climb the ladder after being damned, Heaven obviously has some questions about his methods and motivations. Things seem to be stuck at a standstill, with Sera, Emily, and Lute all arguing over redemption, while poor Snake Boy is barely able to get a single word in. But then this golden deity known as the Speaker of God, yes, God, descends upon them and allows Pentious to tell his uninterrupted tale, which spins a yarn of damnation and redemption that's a lot more tragic and sympathetic than Heaven ever could have imagined. This forces all the major angels to go their separate ways and cope with the situation how they see fit. Emily tries to help Pentious adapt to his new home to no avail, Sera seeks redemption after her grievous misjudgments, and Lute... I'll give her a minute. The first thing I want to praise is how dynamic this story is. So much stuff is going on with various tones, emotions, old characters, new characters, setups, reveals, and it all fits snugly into the runtime while giving us more than enough to chew on. Heck, there's so much stuff to gush about here, I'm gonna have to break it off into segments. So let's start with Sera's story. In my preseason prediction vid, I mentioned that the best arc for Sera would involve her realizing that she's been way too hands-off with some of her Seraphim duties. She essentially allowed Adam and Lute to execute the overpopulated hell in any way they saw fit without doing any real research into the logistics of damnation or salvation. She knows when a soul arrives in heaven, but doesn't know why. She knows that hell has too many occupants, but doesn't know why. She carried herself as this all-knowing deity, even telling others that there's a lot they don't know, when in reality there's a lot she didn't know either, and she never took the time to find out. She prioritized the safety of her people above all else, which is a noble pursuit, but she didn't bother to learn that not everyone damned to the flames is an inhuman monster, and some actually deserve the chance to be rejudged. Turns out I was right on the money with all this, as once Sera hears Pentious' tale of woe, she questions her own actions and wishes to make amends, going so far as to ask the Speaker of God for guidance on what to do next. And she tells her, in a beautiful song, that the best way to seek penance for her sins is to stop leaving responsibilities in the hands of others and use her own voice and her own actions to guide her people more directly. You speak of choices made by other voices, so the way to atone is to speak with your own. Take more initiative in the operations of both your home turf and foreign relations with the denizens of the underworld. Sera's already making strides to be more upfront with her duties and fix the errors of her past. And while she clearly has a long way to go, I feel that by the end of the series, Sera will end up being the ideal middle ground between Emily's naive optimism and Lute's warmongering mindset by taking things as they come and acting fairly. I mean, she's already set up a force field around heaven, taking great strides to protect her people as she attempts to make sense of this whole situation fairly and carefully, and I appreciate that. She's taking the Speaker's words to heart, and from the looks of things, might end up acting as morally gray as her character design, so I can't wait to see what she ends up doing next. While on the topic of the Speaker, though, wow. She may not get to do a ton in this episode, but man, what a warm, sweet, pleasant character this is. She's kind, she's patient, she's gentle, she's reassuring, she's graceful, she's dignified, she's not quick to anger or joke around at all, she's absolutely gorgeous, and she manages to hold a sense of influence and power without being domineering or evil at all. She's just so enchanting. Look, if you guys can simp over human Pentious, I can praise the pretty bird, okay? Anyways, while the Speaker is definitely a noteworthy character, it's more so what she implies that interests me. If there's a speaker of God out and about, then this basically confirms that there is indeed a God in the Helliverse, something I've been theorizing about since my Hell of a Boss days when the show wasn't even out yet. I'll admit I've kind of ping-ponged around when it comes to my thoughts on what God's been doing while all this mayhem's been going down. At first I said he was very overworked, being far too preoccupied with the goings-on of his children on Earth that he left the operation of heaven to his angelic creations, trusting that they'll run the place as he always intended, which obviously didn't go so well. My other assumption was that God was just too nice, seeing all that's been happening firsthand, but naively trusting that his creations will eventually make the right choices, which is why he didn't intervene. But now with the speaker introduced, I'm not entirely sure what to believe. She seems to be a guardian that watches over heaven and relays the teachings of God to those that are struggling, but how often does she do this? Does she ever report anything back to God, or is he completely ignorant to the goings-on of the afterlife? If God does know what's going on, why doesn't he intervene? Does he have some sort of grand plan in place? Did he see the future and knows that everything is going to work out in the end? Are the souls killed during executions truly dead, or is there a way to revive them? Because if not, he allowed a lot of potentially innocent folks to die on his watch. I'm going to put a pin in God for later because this could probably be its own video, but I am interested to see whether or not he had a plan this whole time, or if things just kind of fell into place without him really doing or knowing anything. Anyway, now we move on from divine hope to tearful depression with Pentious and Emily. So at long last we get a full detailed telling of Pentious's human past. And honestly, it just makes the sad snake boy even more pitiable than he already was. He was just a recluse inventor with no one in his life, and the only reason he was banished to the flames in the first place was because he witnessed a Jack the Ripper stand-in killing women outside his window and didn't say anything about it, which led to him dying as a grief-ridden mess. I guess hell operates on Seinfeld logic, where watching someone commit a crime and staying silent means you're doomed to eternal punishment once you hit your series finale. In all seriousness though, we do see that Pentious is extremely regretful for all he's done. Even the small misdemeanors, like watching certain people during private moments just to get some semblance of human connection. And now, despite being in a golden paradise like heaven, he doesn't feel any less lonely than he did during his human life. All his friends are gone, he's unable to see if they're alright, and he has no one to confide in over his situation since nothing like him has ever surfaced before. And bless Emily's little heart, she tries so hard to make Pentious feel at home, but the truth is that no amount of puppies or sugary foods can fill the hole that his true first friends left behind. At the very least, she's able to grant him a little solace by giving him some replacement egg boys and even a little workshop with a mural of his friends above the bed. By the way, Alistair as a straight up horse or deer or whatever that is funnier than any gag in New Pentious, and you can fight me on that. The whole time I was watching, I just felt so heartbroken seeing Pentious cope with loneliness yet again. He was friendless for his entire human life, he played villain to earn respect in the underworld only to get ridiculed, and just as he was granted a posse he could call his own, he was whisked away to a completely different afterlife without any means of contacting them. Forget empathy farming, this is a freaking empathy plantation. Just let this poor lonely soul be happy, gosh dang it. Though if it's any consolation, at least he didn't have it nearly as bad as... yeah. Lute is basically in the worst spot she can possibly be at the moment. She was forced to watch the brutal slaughtering of, quote, the only soul that ever completed her, and her pleas for revenge were completely silenced by every power above her, forcing her to grieve for her loss by herself with only a figment of her dead crush for company. She even resorts to demolishing everything in Adam's old office, probably because any reminders of him would drive her absolutely mad, so she needs to get rid of it all just to stay somewhat sane. You pair all of this with scenes like her breakdown in the alleyway and... Look, I know Lute's not exactly an angel for lack of a better word, but this was painful to watch. It's like we're seeing someone's mind shatter to pieces in real time, and it makes for a really interesting contrast when you look at our other seasonal antagonists. The V's are mostly just corporate bad guys who are fun to watch, and their downfall will be very sweet to see. Lute is the complete opposite. She's super sympathetic, and every moment I watch her, I just feel sad. She's in the wrong with wanting mass genocide, obviously, but part of me just wants the season to end soon so she can reach some closure. I don't care if she gets redeemed, gets killed, gets therapy, whatever. Just put this girl out of her misery, please. I know she's got some plans up her sleeve, and I'm still in the camp that believes that she's responsible for that giant laser that destroys Hell's countdown clock, but I guess we'll wait to see what happens as the episodes chug along. And who knows, maybe she'll learn that redemptions of hellish souls can work in reverse, and saved human souls can be damned, meaning Adam is somewhere in hell just waiting for her. I mean, Figment Adam only knows what she does, so neither of them are sure if the D-Master actually bit the dust for good. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Also, in case you're wondering, Gravity is one of the best songs in the show, if not the best. Visuals are top shelf, camera angles are gorgeous, Lute and Adam singing together is divine, lyrics are both sad and terrifying, the chanting of phrases like Sanctus Dominus or Holy Lord in the background is straight up haunting, and the hard rock edge of the music mirroring both Lute's rage and her boyfriend's favorite music genre is head-banging bliss. When I said I wanted Hazbin's OST to have more hardcore head-banging tracks, this is exactly what I wanted. And honestly, this entire episode is what I wanted. While New Pentious mostly did what it needed to and not much else, Storyteller surpasses all expectations with fantastic character writing, enjoyable set pieces, flooring reveals, and voice acting that makes you feel every inch of trauma our cast is going through. It was a slow start, but the pace has picked right back up, and if the rest of the series retains this momentum, I'm prepared to be absolutely destroyed by the gravity of this hell versus heaven conflict. And those are my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Hazbin Hotel Season 2. In case you couldn't tell, I'm hyped beyond hyped to see what Vivzie and crew do with all this insane setup. And while I'm a little peeved that this season is restricted to only 8 episodes, again, at least we know that a 3rd and even 4th season are confirmed, so the team can take all the time they need to tell as grand of a story as they want, and hopefully learn from some of the mistakes of Season 1. With all that said, what do you guys think? Did the 2nd season of this sinful sensation hook you immediately? Would you like to see me review these episodes weekly as they release? I've got the Prime and the time if you're interested, so leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.